What's going on, guys? The Comics Kid 2099 here. Today, I have a little bit of an unconventional video for you. I don't usually do this kind of thing on my channel, but it being July 4th and me being off from work, I wanted to go ahead and give you guys a little something special. And so this is kind of a reaction to a couple videos that the YouTube channel Geekvolution did about 2 years ago. They were doing a series of videos where they would pitch a movie idea with a few rules suggested by one of the participants in these pitches. And Captain Logan, Eric, and his friend Matt, they all participated in this Ghostbusters pitch. Basically, the only rule that they had for themselves was that they could not remake Ghostbusters 1 or 2. And so they all did potential sequels to Ghostbusters 2. And whenever I watched those videos, I actually had my own idea that I came up with, and I don't know why I didn't post my video then, but I came up with this idea a couple years ago, and I thought I would share it with you guys now. So my idea, instead of it being a sequel to Ghostbusters 1 and 2 set sometime after the fact, it would be a prequel set in the 1920s and 1930s. And our main protagonist would be Tobin, who wrote Tobin's Spirit Guide, which was mentioned in the first movie. And he wouldn't be a full-on expert on the supernatural at this point. He would be encountering a lot of weird, ghostly stuff, and he would be taking a lot of notes, but he wouldn't yet have published Tobin's Spirit Guide. He might not even have the idea to publish a book at all at this point. He may just be taking a lot of notes because he's encountered a lot of weird supernatural stuff, and he might be going around performing an occasional exorcism, stuff like that. He might be having an adventure or two, but he's not necessarily a full-on expert on all this stuff yet. A lot of people don't even know who he is, but a few people in the occult underground, they're familiar with him, and they can see that he's an up-and-coming expert on this stuff, but at this point, he's still very much green behind the ears. And the enemy of this movie would be Ivo Shandor, who was the architect who built the apartment complex that Dana Barrett and Louis Tully lived in the first Ghostbusters movie. And if you'll remember, in the first Ghostbusters movie, he was a worshiper of Gozer. He had started a cult, and then eventually he died. I don't believe they ever went into how he died, but he would have been alive around the same time that Tobin was working on his notes for his spirit guide. So I would have Shandor be the big boss of this movie, except that nobody knows that he is the enemy here. He would be very much behind the scenes. You would see him a few times throughout the movie, and incidentally, I would probably have Paul Rubens play Shandor. At one point in Ghostbusters 1, their plan was for Gozer to manifest as Shandor, and Shandor would be played by Paul Rubens. Of course, they never went in that direction. They had Gozer appear the way that she did in the movie, but I would have Paul Rubens play Shandor here. Of course, he's a little bit older now, but I think he could still play off a very peculiar kind of evil, but still not just straight up mustache twirling evil. I think it would be very interesting to see him play Shandor. And he might meet Tobin at one point in the movie. There might be some banquet that the two of them go to, and they shake hands, and they're friendly with each other. Tobin doesn't understand that Shandor is behind all this stuff that's going on, but he does get to meet him so that you can have a little bit of interesting interplay between these two characters who are very much in the background of the first movie, but not actually main characters in those movies. And then also, a supporting character that we would have here would be Harry Houdini, the famous escape artist who, some people don't know this, but he actually spent a lot of his free time trying to prove that people who claimed to speak with the dead, that they were frauds. That was a huge thing for him. He did not like mediums. He did not believe in the supernatural. He spent a lot of his time trying to debunk all of that. And so it would be very interesting to have him kind of play the role of Walter Peck in this movie, at least at first. I would think by the end of the movie, him and Tobin end up having to team up to stop some kind of evil demon from manifesting in the same way that it happened in the first two movies. And obviously, it wouldn't get as far as it did in the first Ghostbusters movie because people don't really believe in ghosts in the first Ghostbusters movie. It's kind of a new thing in the first Ghostbusters movie with all these ghosts manifesting. Before that, a lot of people don't really act like ghosts are a recurring phenomenon in the city. It's kind of a once-in-a-lifetime thing, if you will, in the first Ghostbusters movie. So it wouldn't become as huge as it did in the first two movies, but you would still have some kind of big crisis event with ghosts manifesting, and Harry Houdini and Paul Tobin, not Paul Tobin, that's a comic book writer, Tobin, they would have to work together to defeat this evil. And then possibly by the end of the movie, Harry Houdini still publicly does not believe in ghosts. He has an image to uphold. He still wants people to think that he still is going out there trying to prove that mediums are frauds, but secretly, maybe he starts bankrolling Tobin in his quest to try and fight these supernatural threats. Now he knows that these evil beings are out there, and he wants to help Tobin while also also maintaining his lifestyle of being a skeptic that everyone knows him to be. And I would have Shandor still be a threat, still be out there at the end of the movie, but maybe one of his minions would be taken down by the end of the movie so that Tobin and Harry Houdini would think, okay, we've defeated the bad guy, this is the guy who's been behind all this, but actually it's Shandor, and they don't really know that. And I would have Shandor be kind of like Charles Manson in that he's doing a lot of this stuff, he's manipulating a lot of people, he's wheeling and dealing, he's kind of shaking a lot of events up, but he's not actually physically doing a lot of this evil stuff himself. He's manipulating some of his followers to go out and do some of this stuff, but he himself would still more or less be keeping his hands clean. And of course, later on, he would be doing some of the stuff that was mentioned that he did in the first Ghostbusters movie, like performing unnecessary surgeries and stuff like that. So anyway, I don't have much of a plot beyond that, other than I think it would be really cool to have these three characters all interact with each other. They would have all been around at the same time. Harry Houdini didn't die until the late 1920s. I believe Tobin, he was alive into the 30s. I don't believe it was ever revealed anywhere when Shandor died. I looked on the Ghostbusters wiki page, and it didn't really say when he died, but it did say there was some stuff that he was involved with that was in one of the Ghostbusters video games, which I have not played, so I only kind of sort of consider that canonical whenever I was coming up with the idea for this movie. But I think it would be a pretty cool movie. I don't know what you would call it. Ghostbusters Origins seems like the obvious solution, but that also is really lazy, and I think we could come up with a better title, but I don't have a better title off the top of my head. But I think it would be a really cool movie. I would really love to see a lot of the occultism of New York City in the 20s with some of these characters interacting with each other. I think it'd be kind of cool. So what did you guys think? Do you want to see more videos like this where I talk about something that I would have liked to have seen happen in a movie? If you do, let me know in the comments below. In the meantime, I will see you guys later in the week with some other videos. You guys have a great rest of the day. Catch you later.